Hi there, this is Mr. Spalton and I will be doing the Thursday assembly for years 5 and 6. In this first assembly we're going to have a think about the group of people that you can see in the photograph on the first slide. So just have a quick think, who and what can you see in the photograph? So hopefully you've decided that you can see a group of soldiers. So what is a soldier? Well, a soldier is a person who serves in the army. And as we can see in the photo, a soldier wears a uniform. They have different uniforms to wear depending on what unit they are in or what job they are doing. Their combat uniform is often camouflaged, as you can see in the photograph. Have any of you ever seen soldiers working before, and can you remember what they were doing? Just have a quick think. You might want to stop the video, have a talk to your partner, and then press play when you're ready. Another important thing that a soldier must do, just like we need to do with our equipment at school, is look after their equipment and belongings and keep them safe, clean and well. There are many jobs that a soldier can do in the army, but their main role is to protect the nation, as we'll find out in the upcoming slides. A soldier needs to train really hard, keep themselves fit and be ready to serve at any time. I'm wondering, do you know anyone who is a soldier in your family or a friend of your family? So what can we see happening in this picture? I wonder if any of you have seen this picture on the news before. So this picture shows and helps us to think about how soldiers are helping us in our time of need at the moment with the pandemic and coronavirus. So armies in the UK and all over the world have played a key part in supporting governments and helping in many ways throughout the pandemic. And it's likely that their role will continue all the way through 2021. In the early autumn, the military helped to organise mass testing in Liverpool. And in December, 1,100 military personnel were sent to help thousands of lorry drivers spending Christmas Day stranded at Dover. Most recently, the Army have been helping secondary schools and colleges in England to set up mass coronavirus testing for their pupils. So, what do you know about the role of the Army? Have a quick think and restart the video when you're ready. So on these slides, we're going to have a quick look at 3 ways in which the armed forces can help you. While we're talking about these, I just want you to think about whether you are aware of the variety of ways the armed forces can help us, and whether you can think of any other ways in which the armed forces help us in our daily lives. Once we've talked about these 3 slides, you may want to pause the video again, talk to your partner in school, or talk to someone at home about your answer to the question. So in this first picture, we can see how the Army is helping with flood defences and protection. So when areas flood, the British Army are often one of the first to arrive to help. Along with the Fire Service and the Environment Emergency Agency, they help to put up flood defences, place sandbags in the doorways of homes and reassure and protect local communities. And we can see the sandbags at the front of the picture and some people in the background carrying some. In this next picture, we can see how the Army are helping to build emergency hospitals, which has been one of their big jobs since the coronavirus pandemic began. So earlier this year, military personnel helped to build temporary hospitals all over the United Kingdom as a precautionary response to the pandemic. And then in our last photograph, we can see how the Army helped to tackle fake news. So the Ministry of Defence, which we often call the MOD, have a team who work for the Cabinet Office in government, and they have the responsibility of stopping misinformation online. So this group helped to identify and tackle fake news found on social media, take it down and search other websites for similar fake news. So before we have a look at some of the other stories in the news this week, just a little bit of a reflection. So the armed forces are not just responsible for protecting their citizens, they also support international peacekeeping efforts and provide humanitarian aid in many different ways. A typical day for a soldier involves working on their base, using their trade skills or developing new ones or developing and working on their fitness. Why do you think it is important that soldiers take part in daily fitness sessions? The first and major role of the army is to protect the nation, and they are always ready to serve. The army is also involved in preventing conflicts, dealing with disasters, and fighting the nation's enemies. How important do you think it is that we have an army? So you might want to stop the video here, have a little think, maybe talk to your friend, brother, sister, or someone at home. How important do you think it is that we have an army? Okay, so now you've had a think about that, my last question before we start having a look at other stories in the news, do you think you would enjoy being a soldier? And why do you think that? So if you think yes, can you think of any reasons why? And if you're thinking no, can you think of any reasons why you wouldn't want to be? So again, you may want to pause the video and have a little think. Okay, so some of the other stories that you might find in the First News newspaper in school. So this headline and picture took my interest because I really like reindeers, one of my favourite animals. So this story tells us all about a Scottish reindeer herd that is thriving, and that's our headline for this article. So although the Arctic reindeer are at risk in other parts of the world, a free-range herd in the Scottish Cairngorms is thriving. Reindeer became extinct in Scotland around 800 years ago due to being overhunted. But in 1947, a Swede and his wife came to the Highlands on honeymoon and thought the area would make a good home for his 8 reindeers. And then, since 1952, the herd has grown to 150 and is now looked after by a team of full-time herders. The herd are free to roam around 10,000 acres of land, so they are spread far and wide when it comes to feeding time. I wonder if anybody knows or can find out what reindeers do feed on. So you can see in the last part of the article there's a little quote there by a young herder, and she tells us they're really greedy, so they'll follow us wherever we have a bag of food. The reindeer are all very different, she tells us. Some love to be around people and others are very shy. Each year the newborn reindeer are given names around a theme, and in 2009 they were named after European cities. So you can see there at the end of the article there was a reindeer named Oslo, a reindeer named Athens, and lots of other European cities. And in the last article that I wanted to show you, because vaccination is very important in the UK, well, all around the world at the moment, but in the UK, is an African wild polio vaccination. So you can see in this article that the vaccination against COVID-19, which took only 10 months to develop, will help protect people from becoming ill for years to come. But as well as the COVID-19 vaccine, there have been other successful vaccination programs around the world in recent years. And this article tells us just about one. So in Africa, a disease called wild polio affected thousands of children under 5. And unfortunately, there was no cure. But the polio vaccine gives lifelong protection. And since the vaccine was launched by President Nelson Mandela in 1996, wild polio was eradicated in most African countries, except for Nigeria. But in August 2020, the World Health Organization, who you've probably heard of, announced that polio had been completely eradicated from the African continent as a whole. And that was described as a public health triumph. So a really nice story there. And then 2 little videos that you might want to go away and have a look at after this assembly. So the first one talks about how the military help us, and then the second one is a little video on YouTube about how the military helped all the stranded drivers at Christmas in Dover. So you may want to have a look at those videos in a second. And the last slide was just some important words that you may be able to use in your discussions, use in any writing you do. I would love to see on Class Dojo some writing about what you've learnt about the Army and Armed Forces. So we've got humanitarian, and you can see what that means, concerned with or seeking to promote human welfare. We've got mass, which means a large number, so the mass testing, test lots of people very quickly. The military is another word relating to the armed forces of the country. Responsible, so having an obligation to do something as part of your job or a duty, and we all have responsibilities, even us in school. You might want to have a little think about that. And then the last one that I thought would be a useful word is stranded. So if you are stranded, you are left without the means or ways to move away from somewhere, to get away from somewhere. Stranded, you can't get away. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed the assembly. I'd love to read your reactions on Dojo and any writing or work you might want to do. You might want to record a little video and post that to your teachers on Dojo in Year 5 and 6. I would also love to see the children in school watching the video and maybe bring some writing to my classroom if you do any work in your class. Okay, so we'll see you again next Thursday with some more in the news features. Thank you. Bye.